What if I told you that one royal gets a 120-room mansion for basically £1 a year, while another royal had to repay millions and still got evicted? Today we're talking about the royal double standard the palace hoped you wouldn't notice. How is Prince Edward, 15th in line to the throne, living almost rent-free in a palace-sized mansion while Prince Harry and Meghan had to pay millions and still lost their home? The answer exposes more than just royal finances. So guys, this is what we're always talking about. Harry and Meghan had to leave, and I'm so happy they leave and they have found their own now and they have their own place. Nobody can take them out of it. They're paying living in their beautiful 30 million mansion. And the royals who tried to break them, they're realizing that, listen, you can move away from a toxic environment. You can move on with your life. And I'm so proud of what Harry and Meghan have done. When you compare how different members of the royal family are treated, some patterns are hard to ignore. And the latest revelation about Prince Edward's near free 150-year lease of a 120-room estate has sparked a wave of disbelief, not just in the UK, but worldwide. Why? Because this new information stands in stark contrast to the way Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex were treated over Frogmore Cottage, where they repaid £2.4 million and were still evicted. Today, we're diving into the numbers, the documents, the double standards, and the public reaction, all of which paint a picture of a royal system that continues to operate behind closed doors. So let's get started. Let's break it down for you. The disclosure that sparked the debate. This entire conversation erupted because the Crown Estate, after refusing for months, was finally forced to release the lease documents for Bagshot Park, Prince Edward's enormous mansion in Surrey. The revelation, here is it guys, a 150-year lease for what is essentially a symbolic rent, often $1 a year or less. They call it a peppercorn rent, peppercorn arrangement. So the same one that Andrew got, Edward got it as well. And that's for a 120-room, grade 2 listed mansion sitting on 51 acres of land. This isn't a small cottage, guys. This is royalty-level luxury for pennies. Edward has lived at Bagshot Park since 1998. At first, he paid a modest $5,000 a year. Later, after contributing to renovations, that rose to $90,000. But the real twist came in 2007. Instead of paying ongoing rent, Edward's company paid a one-time $5 million premium, after which rent dropped to peppercorn levels for 150 years. That means no meaningful annual rent, no significant accountability, no updated valuation. And surprisingly, he can resell the lease as long as the new occupant can maintain the property. Critics say this essentially gives him the ability to privately profit from a publicly owned asset. The public reaction has been fierce. Campaign group Republic said, most people have no idea who Edward is or what he does. Why is he getting any state subsidy? And they are not wrong. Edward is 15th in line to the throne. He has no constitutional role. He has no major public-facing portfolio. So why is he essentially living in a palace for free? Housing activists argue these arrangements prioritize royal privilege over public benefit, especially since Bagshot Park had offers to be turned into a hotel or conference center that would have generated real revenue for taxpayers. Here's where the contrast becomes sharp. While everyday British families face increasing rent, mortgages, and service charges, certain members of the royal family are granted access to multi-million pound estates with next to no ongoing cost. And remember, they're not really doing much for the public as well. When you look at it, the work engagement is like just so minimal, so ridiculous, and then they're living this lavish life, right? And unlike average leaseholders who deal with lease extensions, legal fees, and skyrocketing ground rents, royal leases remain secretive, long-term, and heavily subsidized. The Crown Estate claims the 5 million premium was market tested, but refuses to explain how. Transparency, you ask? Not happening. It's not happening. They're not transparent at all. Meanwhile, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Harry and Meghan's Frogmore situation. We're talking about in 2020, under immense pressure from the British press and Parliament, the couple repaid £2.4 million, which covered taxpayer-funded renovations. Not furnishings, not landscaping, not interiors. Those were paid by Harry and Meghan themselves. And yet, despite repaying everything, they were evicted in 2023. Even more controversial, the home was then offered to Prince Andrew. And you know his situation, she's under SA assault. He's under investigation, right? Despite his ongoing scandals and the fact that he already occupies another massive estate, Royal Lodge, on similarly baffling terms as Edward. So let's put this plainly or bluntly. Prince Edward get a 120-room mansion for effectively free. Prince Harry and Meghan paid millions, followed every rule, and still lost their home. Well, you know this was politics, right? They were just upset that Harry and Meghan left them and they wanted to be vindictive and be spiteful, and that's why that happened. The Crown Estate refused transparency with Edward, but had openly published Andrew's contract. That's after much chagrin. And Harry and Meghan's repayment was splashed across headlines for months. The inconsistency is undeniable, and many people believe that race, royal favoritism, and press narratives play a major role in how the Sussexes were treated and are treated. At the heart of this debate is one question. Why do non-working, low-ranking royals still receive massive state-subsidized estates at minimal cost? And in fact, we know they can afford it. They're supposed to be able to afford it, right? Edward's defenders argue he does good work through the Duke of Edinburgh Award. But critics say that doesn't justify occupying an enormous publicly owned property for almost nothing, especially when the opportunity existed to use Bagshot Park for public revenue. Meanwhile, Harry, who served in the military, who carried out more engagements than Edward some years, and who remains globally impactful, is also fifth in line to the throne, was penalized financially and reputationally. Yes, just because Harry wanted to leave the toxic environment, they were vindictive and they penalized him. Another unanswered question. What happened to the 2.4 million Harry and Meghan repaid? Shouldn't that have been returned or allocated properly once they were removed from the property? No one knows. There has been no public accounting, no statement, no transparency. That silence fuels suspicion and frustration among supporters and critics alike. While your audience already understands this, it's important to frame it responsibly. Many observers believe the treatment of Harry and Meghan, particularly Meghan, as the only biracial member of the royal family, reflects deeper structural biases within the institution and media. When a white, low-ranking royal receives a near-free mansion and a biracial duchess is vilified despite paying millions, the optics are impossible to ignore. Prince Edward's peppercorn lease isn't just a quirky revelation. It's a spotlight on a system built on secrecy, privilege, and selective transparency. And when you compare it to the treatment of Harry and Meghan, the double standard becomes unmistakable. This isn't about who deserves what. It's about consistency, fairness, transparency, and accountability for public assets. And until those gaps are addressed, these stories will keep coming and the questions will only get louder. So guys, yes, you see the double standard. You see what they did to Harry and Meghan. And this is what we're talking about. The biases, the double standard, the vindictiveness, just the vile way they treated Harry and Meghan and expected them to grin and bear it, laugh in the public like everything was okay. When Meghan was pregnant, they put her through hell, but she fought back. And she's a strong woman, and that's why they are thriving right now. They're living it up in Montecito. Their 30 million mansion is theirs. Their names are on it. It is their property. No one can come and take that away from them. No one can evict them. They have paid for their property. They're paying their mortgage. They're doing well. And I'm so grateful to God that he took Harry and Meghan out of that toxic environment. So yes, guys, that's what I wanted to bring you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you never miss a beat. Bye.